Perfect. All right, so just quickly, my name's Chad Lawson. I'm the Associate Director for the Risk and Compliance Divisions at Robert Walters. So I will today, this is a bit of an overview. So firstly, just quickly about us in terms of what we do and sort of why I'm here. We'll give a market overview, which will probably echo some of Bill's initial sentiments in regards to what's happening in the market. And then we'll talk about, careers in compliance and sort of pathways into it, and some of the benefits of careers in compliance as well. And then finally, just a Q&A, any questions from the audience. So firstly, just about us and the compliance division that I run. So firstly, our firm was set up in 1985 by Rob, who's still our CEO, and he still works in a London office. We cover, I guess, all areas of professional services, but specifically I look after compliance. We are at 53 locations across 24 countries, and obviously London is head office and we're listed here in the UK. The compliance division that I run was set up in 2001, so we're a long-standing compliance division, mainly focused within financial services, within that covering investment banks, private wealth managers, hedge funds, retail banks, asset managers. I run a team of 9 specialist consultants. To put that in perspective in regards to where the market has changed, it's doubled in the last 2 years. So we've reacted to the market in regards to the size of our team to cover the volume of work that will be coming through. We also have a team in Manchester, in Birmingham and Milton Keynes covering financial services centres there. A lot of banks are starting to nearshore functions out to these areas. I also collaborate with my teams in New York, in Hong Kong, in Sydney. Obviously I'm from Sydney, so it helps. Paris, Dubai. We've got compliance specialists across the globe that we network with for vacancies and also for candidates. Compliance market overview. So some of these statistics, either from surveys from our clients that we speak to or from statistics that are on websites in regards to job volumes. But again, it will echo what Bill said in regards to what's happening in the compliance industry in general. So at the moment, from our survey from our clients, 72% of our employers or our clients are saying they're affected by talent shortages. Everyone will hear about compliance being a busy area. It is, and in recruitment term, it's a candidate short market. Over 2/3 of these employers we speak to say they do not have a plan for managing these shortages. So they're scrambling around for talent, essentially. The statistics here is 2.6 jobs for every candidate. Now, that we run a survey of vacancies online across a number of different websites. We use a third-party supplier to do this, and they present this information. So 2.6 compliance jobs for every candidate that is registered as looking for a job on those websites. The second section to talk about is the vacancies at an all-time high. So again, with the same data we looked at, 13% increase year on year in June this year in terms of vacancies that are released. And also it's interesting to note they're 31% from June to July. So generally in summer in the recruitment world, it will slow down because of summer. But compliance and industry against the trend had increased 31% across that period of time. And the last point there, so London and the Northwest are the busiest areas of growth for compliance. You'll find that a lot of banks are nearshoring functions, HSBC to Birmingham, Deutsche Bank's doing a lot of functions to Birmingham as well, Manchester with RBS. So a lot of firms are redeploying their compliance staff into these areas as well. In terms of where we're seeing the hiring across the market, so there's a few core areas there you can see. It's anything that's sort of regulatory-based recruitment, we'd say. So some of the key areas, so compliance monitoring, governance, controls and testing. Anything as a second line review of functions is extremely in vogue in recruitment. We're seeing a lot of horizon scanning, regulatory advisory functions being built up. So looking at what's coming in and how it will impact the business. And also policy development internally for these banks. Financial crime, so across AML advisory, sanctions screening, a lot of second line assurance functions of these first line functions. Are being built out, and we're seeing new teams created for these areas. And also finally where we're seeing is in the investment banking side and the global market side is product advisory, advising on new products, also new areas to move into from a sales perspective. But we're seeing a lot of that. And finally there, obviously the growth is predicted for next year. So in my role and my team's role, we're speaking to a lot of clients and hiring managers, heads of compliance and MLROs. They're talking about plans for next year, and it is bigger than what it was this year in terms of growth. And that will probably be unique in regards to the rest of the financial services industry. We're reading that some are cutting jobs, some are freezing in terms of hiring this time of the year. most of our clients are talking about the increase in hiring and compliance and the need for robust compliance infrastructure. So again, this is a bit more about sort of an overview here, and again, this is a survey. Some of the information on the right there is about what we surveyed our clients and the questions we asked them and what they're seeing. Our managers are frustrated with lack of talent. There's a lack of immediate direct fit that they're finding in the market, and 64% of them felt that the candidates lacked the right technical skills. And also 32% feel there's overall lack of quantity coming through for jobs. So not enough CVs being sent, not enough people in the market to satisfy their requirements. And so what we're seeing is alternative talent streams that are being considered, and we're trying to sell to hiring managers to fill these roles. They can come from audit, from operations, from legal backgrounds, paralegals, from front office or sales areas. We're seeing a lot of these people move in to compliance should they have the right qualifications. So career in compliance and why you should have a career in compliance, and obviously I think you're all here because of that. We talked about before the increased profile of a compliance officer. There is, again, going back 10 years ago, there was probably less of a profile. It was seen as more of a sort of really back office role and a processing function, a need to have, but not a helpful function. These days it's seen as an integral part of the bank in terms of ensuring they are not going to get a huge fine, and they are making money appropriately. There's a lot of high-level stakeholder engagements. A lot of the heads of compliance are sitting on boards now, so there's a huge profile for people in compliance. It's an interesting, challenging roles with critical importance. So the roles aren't now just box ticking as before, or just doing a process. It's now actually changing. There's changing functions. A lot of it is regulatory driven, so you need to look at forward thinking in regards to where things come. But also it's problem solving and supporting a business in regards to how they can actually perform better. There are fast track career opportunities. So again, previously there were small teams, it was a job for life. These days the teams are growing, and there's a lot of opportunity to get involved with compliance and grow up that ladder internally. So as the growth is predicted to continue in these businesses, we'd expect this to continue as well. And also because of the profile, and because of the access to people internally, good talent is exposed. So people can see good talent from the business, reward them and promote them internally. And finally, which is also very importantly, compensation benefits. We are seeing a huge increase in regards to the base salary expectations, but also what we're seeing the paying in the market. For a lot of people, they're increasing year on year. At some point, we need to flatten out. But it's definitely a rewarding industry to be in financially. And also, there's increased recognition of importance with higher variable component, meaning bonuses, essentially, better bonuses for people who are going to be moving into compliance. So how do you get in? Again, it's unlike, if you're a lawyer, you probably go through a law firm, and if you're an accountant, you probably go through one of the big four, or another accounting firm, sorry. But for compliance, there's no real defined career path. And as the industry grows, it's very hard to find a channel in. So what we find is either graduate schemes, we'll go through the graduate schemes, and banks are increasing these. They develop talent internally from different areas, or they'll transfer people from other industries to come across. So the next point down is the hiring managers we speak to are looking for a reason to hire, whereas previously, going back even before 2009, people were not looking for a reason to hire, they were looking for a reason not to hire someone. So what this means is to make yourself attractive, qualifications definitely help. So if you're looking to move from one industry to the other, the better qualified you are, and the more you can explain that you understand that industry, the more likely you are to get that job. And the last point there is just the higher profile, again, the higher interest and the more competition is. Again, everyone's listening and understanding that compliance is a very interesting industry to be in. It's a very rewarding area. So people are looking to make the most of this boom and move into the discipline. So the better you are in regards to setting your CV up from a qualification standpoint, and the more you can do to show that you are interested in moving into this area from a different discipline, the more likely you are to get that job. So I thought just quickly on a case study. So I went back when I knew I was doing this today, was having a look at the candidates we're placing in the market with what qualifications they have. And this sort of presents, I believe, an example of someone who's moved into a financial crime role from a different industry, and the benefit of having a qualification that will give you. So as you see there, a graduate, paralegal, operations into an onboarding role. And after qualifying with an ICA qualification there in 2013, we placed this candidate into a financial crime advisory role, reporting up into the MLRO at a leading US investment bank. So this is one of many examples I could find when I was looking at my database and who we are placing in the industry. So it does show that there is a pathway into the industry with further qualifications to improve your CV. And this is a key thing. I think if someone didn't have some of the qualifications, it might be harder for them to move into this area because technically they would like to try and get a like-for-like hire from a similar investment bank. But as that talent is now harder to find, they're looking for a reason to hire that person, and a qualification like this would definitely help you. So from my perspective, that's it. Any questions for me? Open the floor up in terms of questions on careers or opportunities or how to enter the industry. Someone in the front here.
Hi, starting at a basic level, what kind of career path do you think that a person can go through if it's like just a certificate for AML?
So
if
say it again,
they're
sir?
getting into the industry and they just want just a broad understanding.
Yeah.
What kind of career path do you think that?
Well, similar to the one before, I think that you'll find, depending on what qualification you do and what area you want to go into, financial AML and financial crime is probably the most likely area. We find a lot of people go into an onboarding function, which is probably a bit more of a process-driven role before getting a qualification and moving across. So that could be one entry level into it. Some people would enter into operations and then move across as well. But generally, I think that there is you need to come into a more of an operational sort of an onboarding function before moving across into an AML advisory role. We're actually looking at more of an investigations type function. I hope that answers the question. Back there.
What's the split that you're seeing between fixed-term contracts and permanents?
Between fixed-term or just general contracts and permanents?
And permanents, yeah.
We're seeing a push for more permanent hiring. People are trying to fill permanent headcount. It's costly to hire people on a contractual basis. But in saying that, we still a high volume of contract. The growth we've seen in vacancies has been on the permanent side. The contract vacancies have been relatively static year on year. But we are seeing an increase in daily rate expectations from contractors in specific demand areas. Most of these are going to be probably in regulatory advisory when there is a looming deadline to face, or if there's a significant issue. So if someone needs to come and do a whole remediation activity across KYC files, they'll get in a team of contractors to do that. But generally the increase we've seen is on the permanent side, as they try to build these teams out to show that they've got stable infrastructure from a compliance perspective. Another question? Okay, thank you. Oh, one more.
In terms of hiring, what's the split between supporting BAU activities and support for any change programs?
That's a good question. There's a grey line between BAU and change. A lot of these BAU roles now do pretty much a change role because they have to be involved with that on a regular basis. We're seeing less, so if I look at what I call BAU roles in what we recruit for, so if we're looking at central compliance functions or in control room or surveillance, we've seen less of that in terms of hiring. We've seen more roles being created in regulatory advisory and in change functions and also in AML governance. So if you're saying AML governance, they're not really a BAU role because they're doing a lot of sort of reviews and of the actual function. But yeah, probably more on the change side, but again, it's a blurred line between the two. I think at the time.
So one more here. This gentleman there. No, okay. My background is I'm a chartered banker and I did the CPGDL to come into law, and I'm now doing the LLM oil, gas and mining in Nottingham Law School. And I have become interested in this. There are two electives which are introduction to regulation, which is part of regulation and compliance, and also there's one on security, regulation, governance and risk and other things. Imagine I take these two papers and add them to the LLM program, which I'm doing, taking into consideration the fact that I'm a chartered banker. How do I get into this direction? If imagine I decide not to do the bar program and I want to go into the compliance, career.
It's probably best, we'll talk afterwards. You can come have a chat and we'll go through it in detail because it's quite a unique situation. We can help you out with that one.